The crowd at Indian Wells barely had a moment to understand what they were witnessing. One of the biggest names in tennis was suddenly walking toward the chair umpire, shaking her head. And just moments later, the match was over. But here's the twist that has tennis fans arguing everywhere online right now. Because before that retirement happened, one young player had already taken total control of the match. And that player was Alex EALA. What happened on that court may end up being remembered as one of the biggest turning points of her career. The matchup already had plenty of intrigue before the first point was played. On one side of the net was COCO GAUFF, one of the most recognizable stars in women's tennis today. A Grand Slam champion and a player who has spent years proving herself as one of the elite competitors on the WTA Tour. On the other side was a rising talent who has been quietly building momentum over the last few seasons. A 2-year-old from the Philippines whom many tennis insiders have been watching very closely. And if you follow the sport carefully, you already know that Alex EALA's name has been appearing more and more in conversations about the future of women's tennis. But what took place during this match at the BNP Paribas Open at Indian Wells Tennis Garden in Indian Wells, California may have pushed that conversation to an entirely different level. Because from the opening games, something felt unusual. The rallies were short, the pressure was constant, and the momentum was flowing in only one direction. Right from the start, Alex EALA came out playing bold, fearless tennis. Her returns were deep, her ground strokes were sharp, and maybe most importantly, she looked completely composed on one of the biggest stages in the sport. Meanwhile, COCO GAUFF was struggling to find any real rhythm. Now, if you've watched Gauff before, you know she is one of the most explosive athletes in tennis. Her movement is usually one of her greatest weapons. She can run down shots that most players wouldn't even dream of reaching. But during this match, something looked off. The timing wasn't fully there. The movement looked just a little hesitant, and as the games kept passing, it became obvious that Alex EALA was sensing the opening. Point after point, the pressure kept growing. And before many people in the stadium fully realized what was going on, the scoreboard was already showing something stunning. 6-0. That first set ended 6-0 in favor of Alex EALA. Now let's stop there for a second because this part of the story matters a lot. Even though the match eventually ended because of injury, the truth is that EALA had already completely controlled the opening set against one of the biggest stars in the sport. That kind of start does not happen by luck. It happens because a player enters the match with a clear plan, executes it beautifully, and refuses to shrink from the moment. And that's exactly what Alex EALA was doing. Her baseline game was sharp and self-assured. She was driving the ball deep into the corners, forcing GAUFF to defend over and over again. Whenever she saw an opening, she stepped in and took command of the rally. It was disciplined tennis. It was aggressive tennis. And maybe most impressive of all, it was fearless tennis. Now here's where the story takes a more complicated turn. Because during that first set, some fans started noticing signs that COCO GAUFF might be dealing with physical discomfort. Her movement didn't look as explosive as it normally does. Between points, there were moments where she seemed to stretch and adjust her body language in ways that suggested something didn't act and feel right. At first, it wasn't entirely obvious. Athletes deal with minor discomfort during matches all the time. Sometimes it's only fatigue, sometimes it's a temporary tweak. But once the second set began, the situation changed very quickly. Alex EALA continued exactly where she had left off. She broke serve early and moved ahead 2-0, and then everything suddenly came to a stop. COCO GAUFF walked over to the umpire, spoke briefly, and made the difficult decision to retire from the match. Just like that, it was over. No dramatic final rally, no comeback try, no long third set battle. Instead, the match officially ended with Alex EALA moving on to the next round because of retirement. And the reaction across the tennis world was immediate. Some fans were stunned, some were disappointed that the match ended so quickly, and many began asking the same question. What exactly happened to COCO GAUFF? Now, as of this moment, the precise details about the injury have not been fully confirmed publicly. In situations like this, players and their teams often need time to evaluate what happened before giving a full update. So it's important to be careful here. Speculating about injuries can very easily turn into rumors. What we do know is that GAUFF appeared to be dealing with physical discomfort, and she ultimately decided it was not safe to continue. And in professional tennis, that decision is never made lightly. Players at this level are some of the fiercest competitors in the world. Walking off the court in the middle of a match is something they avoid unless continuing could make the injury worse. But while much of the attention naturally shifted toward Gauff's health, there's another side of this story that deserves just as much recognition, because Alex EALA had already been playing outstanding tennis before the retirement happened, and that performance is exactly why this moment feels so important for her career. For fans in the Philippines, this victory carries a special meaning. Tennis has been growing steadily in the country, but it has not always had a strong presence at the very top of the professional rankings. That's why Alex EALA's rise has been followed so passionately by Filipino sports fans. For years, she has been seen as one of the brightest young prospects in the game. Her junior career already gave hints of what might be possible. She built a reputation for strong baseline play, tactical intelligence, and an ability to remain calm under pressure. But the move from junior success to the professional tour is never simple. The WTA Tour is one of the toughest environments in sports. Every week, players face opponents with years of experience and world-class skills. Breaking through at that level takes patience, resilience, and a lot of growth. And little by little, Alex EALA has been showing that she belongs there. Matches like this one at Indian Wells are exactly the kind of opportunities that define careers. Even though the match ended early, the performance still delivered a powerful message. It showed that she can step onto a major stage and compete with confidence against one of the biggest stars in the game. And that confidence matters, because tennis is not only about technique or athletic ability, it is also about belief. When a young player realizes she can stand toe-to-toe with elite opponents, something changes mentally. Suddenly, the biggest names no longer feel untouchable. They start to feel beatable, and that mental shift can become the beginning of a real breakthrough. Now here's the question tennis fans are beginning to debate. Was this simply an unfortunate injury situation for COCO GAUFF, or was this also the moment when Alex EALA announced herself as a serious contender on the tour? The honest answer might be somewhere in the middle. Injuries are part of sports, and they can change matches instantly. But the scoreboard from that opening set is still there, 6-0. That does not happen unless one player is carrying out her strategy at a very high level. And it does not happen unless the opponent is being put under relentless pressure. Which leads to another interesting point. The style of tennis Alex EALA played in this match could create problems for many top players going forward. Her aggressive returning forces opponents to begin rallies on defense. Her deep ground strokes push players far behind the baseline. And when she's feeling confident, she is not afraid to step inside the court and take over. Those are the qualities of a player who can disrupt the rhythm of established stars, and that is exactly what seemed to be happening against COCO GAUFF before the retirement. Looking ahead, the next big question is what comes next for Alex EALA in this tournament. The BNP Paribas Open is often called the fifth Grand Slam because of its prestige, its huge draw, and the level of competition involved. Making a deeper run at an event like this can change the direction of a player's career. It brings more attention, it brings tougher opponents, and it brings more chances to prove that a breakout performance was not just a one-time moment. For Alex, the next rounds are another opportunity to show that her rise is real. At the same time, the tennis world will also be watching closely for updates on COCO GAUFF. Injuries can be unpredictable, and fans everywhere will be hoping the issue is not serious. Because when Gauff is healthy and playing her best tennis, she is one of the most exciting athletes in the sport. Her speed, her fighting spirit, and her ability to handle pressure have already created some incredible moments in recent years. So the hope across the tennis community is that she recovers quickly and returns soon. But on this particular night in Indian Wells, the spotlight shifted to somebody else. A 20-year-old player who stepped onto the court with confidence, played fearless tennis, and walked away with one of the most important wins of her career, and that player was Alex EALA. Now, here's something I want to ask all of you watching. Do you think this moment marks the true breakout of Alex EALA on the WTA Tour, or do you think we still need to see more deep runs before calling it a breakthrough? Because tennis history is full of moments like this, when a rising star suddenly grabs the spotlight. Sometimes it becomes the start of a long climb to the top, and sometimes it is only the first chapter of a much bigger story that unfolds over the next few seasons. Personally, I think this match will be remembered as a very important stepping stone, not only because of the result, but because of the way Alex EALA played. The confidence, the aggression, the composure, those are the qualities that champions build careers on. And if she keeps developing at this pace, the rest of the WTA Tour may need to start paying very close attention, because the next generation of tennis stars is already arriving. And based on what we saw at Indian Wells, Alex EALA might be one of the most exciting names leading that wave. But as always, I want to hear your thoughts. Was this simply an unfortunate injury ending for COCO GAUFF? Or did Alex EALA prove she is ready to challenge the biggest names in tennis? Let me know what you think. And if you enjoy following the biggest stories, rising stars, and unexpected drama from the world of tennis, stay tuned, because here on Red Dust Report, we break down the moments that could shape the future of the sport.